In 2004, my dad bought me my first firearm. It was a Taurus 357 Magnum Revolver, model 607. Had a big old 6.5-inch barrel, scope mounted on top of it that I eventually took off. And it was used, and I think kind of abused before we got it. It was very accurate, lovely to shoot, but it had a few problems. And eventually, in 2012, it died, which leads us to this. I sent it to Taurus to have it repaired, and they don't make the 607 anymore, and they couldn't repair that particular part. It was a trigger pin that broke. And so what they did is they sent me this, the Model 66, which seems like, at first glance, it should be a pretty good replacement for that old 607. This is a 7-shot 357 Magnum Revolver. And let's see what they included here. Alright, got a manual. A couple of strange looking keys. We'll see what those are all about here in a second. And then here's the item itself. Nothing really special going on in the packaging here. You can see that I didn't get a hard case or anything. But this is it. This is the Model 66. The revolver straight out of the box comes with a few extra plastic goodies on it just to protect it. So let's get rid of those and see what we have underneath. So we have a protector for the rear tang sight there. Inside this little gap in the cylinder here at the back. There we go. Just have a plastic disc. Knock that out. Let's take a look at the specs of this revolver. First, you can see it's all made of blued steel, until you get back here to the hammer and to the trigger, which appear to be a case-hardened steel. It's a 7-shot 357 Magnum Revolver. Of course, you can shoot .38 Special in it as well. And the sights are fantastic. I love these on the 607. Adjustable for height and for windage. And let's go really quickly through the battery of arms on this thing. As with any other single-action, double-action revolver, of course, this is where your rounds are going to go. This is like your little magazine, the cylinder. If you want to fire with a nice crisp pull, you can pull the hammer back first. And this shows off one of the features that is very common to revolvers now. In fact, I don't think anything is made without it. This is the transfer bar system. Instead of having a fixed firing pin, like some older revolvers had, and which could lead to some potentially catastrophic situations where you drop your gun and it shoots you, this, even if the hammer were to go forward and strike right in there, the firing pin would not go forward and hit anything unless the trigger was being pulled at the same time. Here is the single action pull. Just a nice, light, crisp pull. Or if I wanted, I could do a double action pull, where I pull the trigger and you can see that it cocks the hammer as well and turns the cylinder, and fire that way. Once I'm done, I can just open the cylinder here by pressing this button, and then eject my empties or any unfired cartridges by pressing this little plunger. What makes the Model 66 different than the 607? One of the first and most obvious differences to those that have held the two is the absence of these ports. On the 607, there were 8 upward firing compensator ports, and this does not have that. The purpose of that is to reduce muzzle jump. When it's firing, gases would be released upward, pushing the muzzle down. Pretty slick little thing. Also made the revolver extremely loud. In addition to that, it extended the barrel length. This right here is a 6-inch barrel, and the 607 had a 6.5-inch barrel, just to make room for that little kind of gas expansion area up at the front. Can't really tell the difference by looking at them back to back, but this one is just a little bit shorter. Another difference is back here on the hammer. At the back there's this funny little round thing, and that is where these keys come into play. This is a safety system, which I don't really anticipate ever using unless I'm locking up this revolver for a long period of time. It's basically just an Allen wrench. It's like a security Allen. Put it in here, turn it till it clicks, and that locks up the hammer. So this gun cannot be fired now. Not by pulling the trigger, not by pulling the hammer. And the only way to return it to a fireable condition is to twist it back. So kind of neat, I guess, especially if you're living in one of the northeastern states where they require such things. At least you don't have to have all kinds of external junk attached to it in order to make it safe. You can just turn that little key. For me, it's not that useful. Actually, picking up the gun, this is where some of the new changes really become apparent. The sights used to have, on the front, there used to be this little orange plastic insert up at the very top of that sight. And on here, that is gone. It's just black. At the back, there also used to be kind of a white little outline around that little patchage cutout there. And that is gone. It's just black on black. And I'm kind of curious to see if that will affect my speed with this thing. Not that I was very fast anyway, but I think these sights are just going to be fantastic, even with that stuff missing. And actually, as far as the orange front insert goes, that was kind of rubbish. All it tended to do was reflect the light, and so it would kind of wash out the front sight. Now, the biggest thing about this revolver that I just love is the weight. I can already tell, it's been a few months since I've held the 607 when I sent it off to have it repaired. It took about 3 months for me to get it back, to get this one back. And even though it's been that long since I've held it, the first time, just holding this thing right now, I can already tell this is considerably lighter. And I can tell where a lot of that weight has been shaved. It seems like a lot is taken off the barrel somehow. They've just used less metal. The cylinder is much thinner and uses less metal. I guess they've found some way to make it stronger without needing all that metal in place. The trigger, you can see where it's been kind of scooped out on the backside. That was not the case with the original, if I remember correctly. That was just a solid piece of metal. And overall, this whole thing just feels so much more handy. Before, holding this thing out for a few minutes to take a shot, you'd just be, you could really wear yourself out firing this gun. But this, I think I'm really going to like this once I get it out on the range. Another really big improvement is in the single action trigger pull. The original had some creep and some junk in it, and this one is just light and crisp and just a tiny bit of over travel. Let's see if we can get a good view here. It's just beautiful. To me, it feels very much on par with a Smith & Wesson or a Colt. I love the triggers on those, and the trigger on the old Taurus 607 just never matched up. This, I think, is the first Taurus trigger that I've ever tried that competes with those guys. in summary, I'm really excited to get this replacement handgun. I think this is going to be quite a bit better than the 607 in several key ways. I love the lightness of this thing. It feels so much more manageable, you know, here on the bench anyway, than the old 607. The trigger pull is going to be just fantastic, I think, when I get it out on the range. Huge improvement. And really the only thing that's, I think, worse than my 607 is just a little bit of the fit on some of the moving parts here. Opening the cylinder is a little bit stiff. It feels like the parts weren't completely machined and polished. It's like they were just kind of cut and thrown in there. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time before they polish themselves into place. Manipulating the cylinder up into position, I can feel it sticking at various points before it goes in. Opening the cylinder, it's a little bit weird. But I think over time, those things will slick up and this thing should be just fine. I think I'm going to like this a lot more than the 607.